I've worked 2 jobs since I was 18, and I'm now 60. And I think too many people don't understand how important and better it is for you to be working hard. I also think too many people are on out-of-work benefits. My question is, what are you going to do to help more people to come off benefits and back into work?
Mary, thank you very much for that. Keir Starmer, what are you going to do to get more
Mary,
people
thank you for
off
raising
work,
that.
off benefits and into work?
Yeah, can I first agree with you that work is, of course, about pay and being able to pay your own way and, you know, support your family, but it is also about dignity and respect. And my dad worked in a factory all his life. He was a tool maker, and having a secure job for him was really important to his respect and integrity. In relation to those that are out of work, my rule is this: if you can work, you should work. And we've got a plan to get people into work, working with businesses to support people in. I think we need to change the job centre and the careers service, because at the moment, when I ask businesses, if you have a vacancy, are you going to the job centre to get that vacancy filled? They say they're not, so we need to do that. The other thing, Mary, that we absolutely need to do is to get the waiting lists down in the NHS, because very many people aren't able to work or to work in the way they want because they're waiting for an operation because of the catastrophic level of waiting lists under this government.
So let's hear your first response, Rishi Sunak, to Mary's question. So, what are you going to do to get people off benefits?
Mary, there's a clear choice for you and everyone who believes like you do the situation isn't right. Because if you want lower taxes and lower welfare, that's what I'll deliver. If you want higher taxes and higher welfare, that's what Keir Starmer will do. So I strongly agree that people are better off in work. It's not just for the financial security it brings you, it's about the purpose, the dignity that it brings to people, which you alluded to, and I strongly agree with. The number of people currently out of work on ill health and disability benefits is too high. It's gone up by 800,000 since the pandemic. It's gone up by 60%, the bill, in the last few years. We've got to do something about that. I made a speech about this a few months ago. I set out a comprehensive plan to reform the welfare system, to tighten it up so that those who can work do work. We're stricter about those eligibility criteria. That's fair for all of you who are working hard paying your taxes. It's better for those people, and that's what I'll do. But when I announced that, and just again recently, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party opposed every single thing that I set out to deliver what you want. Every single thing. They do not think that you can save a single penny in the growing welfare bill. That's what their numbers show, that's what they've said. So the choice for you is clear. If you want lower welfare and lower taxes, I will deliver that for you. Higher taxes and higher welfare is what you will get with Keir Starmer.
We actually have a related question, so I'm going to bring in Beverly McKenzie now.
I've worked all my life, but had to stop due to illness. Disabled people like me get hit in the worst way when we want to get back to work and help, but often we can't. How will candidates ensure we're not punished by benefit sanctions?
Thank you very much. Rishi Sunak, so you've said you'd tighten the system, you'd be stricter. What does that mean for people like Beverly?
Yeah, sorry, what was... I couldn't quite hear. Is it Beverly?
Yeah. Beverly.
Yeah, Beverly, look, I actually believe in a compassionate welfare system that supports everyone who genuinely needs it. And you saw me do that during COVID, making sure that we got support to the most vulnerable. Right? That will always happen under a Conservative government, always happen under me. But what we won't do is have a system where people are not supported into work if they can work. So what we're going to do is make sure that we reform the fit note, sick note process, which isn't working. It's signing far too many people off as not fit for work. We're going to look at, when you asked about benefits and sanctions, we're going to provide active support for people into work. But I also think that if people have been offered jobs that they can do and that they don't take them, then that's not okay. So after 12 months, what I've said is we will do something about that. If your job coach says to you, look, there's work that you can do, that everyone agrees you can do, there's a job for you that you're fit enough and well enough to do, and you refuse to take it, I don't think that's fair on everyone else after 12 months of support, so we will tighten that up. I think that's fair for everybody, because fundamentally I think that those people who can work should work. That's, I think, a fundamental tenet of fairness in our system, which most people will agree with. That's why I think we can save money in the welfare bill, because it's forecast to grow at an extraordinary rate over the next few years.
Keir Starmer,
and I want to use that money to support
Keir Starmer,
people
just
and
one
to cut
second.
your taxes.
What is wrong, if you believe it is wrong, what Rishi Sunak is saying, that if someone is offered a job and they can do that job and they turn it down, that's wrong?
No, there's nothing wrong with that, and I just want to address Beverly's point.
You opposed it when I announced it. You literally opposed it.
If you listen to people in the audience across the country more often, you might not be quite so out of touch. Beverly, can I just address the point you make? Because it's a really important point, which is very many people with illness or disability do want to get back into work for the very reason that was alluded to before, the respect, the dignity, and the support that it gives them. But it's difficult to do so because they're worried about whether they can do it and whether they'll last a period of months. So what a number of firms are doing, businesses, and I've been to see this myself, and I support this, is having a supported scheme where people can be supported back into work for a number of months to make sure they can make that transition and get back into work. I think that's a really good scheme. That's what we would put into place. But I do have to address this question. The Prime Minister keeps saying he's going to cut taxes. He has raised tax 26 times. Nobody's raised more tax than this Prime Minister.
This is not a question about tax. This is a question about getting people back to work. So the numbers have risen considerably since the COVID pandemic. The numbers of people economically inactive due to long-term sickness has risen to 2.8 million. So how would you are seeking power, what would you get those numbers down to through the approach you're talking about?
We want to get the numbers right down. We want to, with a plan to get people back into work. Partly that's supported. Partly it's the changes that we want to make to the job centres to make sure that where businesses and public services, the NHS doesn't go to the job centre when it's got vacancies. They should do, so we want to merge those two services. But the other thing, if we're going to get people back into work, is we have to tackle these terrible waiting lists, because nearly 8 million people are on the waiting list. And so it's not their fault that they can't get back into work. It's the fault of the government that's put us in this terrible position. We have to address these
fundamentally, there's a very clear choice and there's a very clear dividing line. I think you've got to change the eligibility criteria in the welfare system. You've got to make it clear that people who can work should work. That means looking at all the gateways we have and actually being more rigorous about asking people to provide medical information when they're making these claims, reforming the sick note process, being stricter about saying to people who don't accept a job after 12 months that that's not okay. Those are all the practical things that I've set out. I think that's fair. Now, Keir Starmer can stand here tonight and say what he wants. When I made that speech, and you can all go and read it and see what they said, they opposed every single measure. Just 2 weeks ago, they were asked about it. They said, we oppose all those measures. So it's one thing to stand here and say all these things. You should at least be upfront with people. You don't think my approach is the right one. You are going to have higher welfare under you, and that's why you can't deliver tax cuts the way that I can. And people should not surrender to this.
The Prime Minister says he's going to do all these things. They've been in power for 14 years. Why has he only just thought of this with a week to go before the general election? Honestly, if there's that much wrong with the system, who's the guy in charge of the system over the last 14 years? Why is it so bad?
Well, you want to be in charge, but you've got nothing to say to people about what you would do about it. This election is about the future.
Will the welfare bill be higher under you, Keir Starmer?
No, it needs to come down. It needs to come down by getting people back into work with a clear plan, and it needs to come down by tackling the waiting lists so that more people can get back into work, which is why one of the first things that we will do if we're elected in to serve our country, serve being the word I choose, is to put in place 40,000 extra appointments, NHS appointments, each and every week. That's 2 million a year to drive down those waiting lists, to give people the comfort and operations that they need, and to allow them to get back into the economy so that we can grow the economy, which is the thing that's been missing so desperately over the last 14 years.
What Keir Starmer's not telling you is actually most of the people who we're talking about, who Sue asked about originally, aren't on an NHS waiting list. So talking about that isn't an answer to this problem.
Nearly 8 million.
The answer to this problem is actually being stricter about the eligibility criteria, making sure that everyone who can work does work, because that's fair to everyone like Sue, who is working very hard and putting in. That's what I will do. I promise you I will deliver on it. We will cut the welfare bill, the growth in the welfare bill. It is unsustainable. We spend too much on it. I've set out a plan to do so. Labour oppose all of it. So the choice for you is simple. If you want higher taxes and higher welfare, that's what Keir Starmer will do. If you want lower taxes and lower welfare, that's what I will do. Do not surrender to our welfare system to the Labour Party and Keir Starmer.